Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Eric Paxton. Today is going to be over FTH212 Striker Fire Pistols in the Handgun Specialist course here at SDI. And first part of this is we're going to go ahead and show you the exploded view of the pistol that we've been sent. Palmetto State Armory Dagger Compact. Right here, and we're going to then show you the additional parts they sent, which were the competition spring kit that includes the firing pin safety plunger spring and a trigger spring. They also sent from Ghost Inc. the Evo Elite 3.5 bump-free 3.5 trigger connector for Glock pistols, which is basically this piece right here. But this one takes out the over travel, or the creep, if you want to call it that. Some people call it creep, some people call it over travel. Same name, two different names for the same thing. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and pick 6 parts, give you their dimensions, and then we're going to explain their part in the cycle of operations. We'll start with the striker here, which was this piece right here. The striker is basically your firing pin, which acts as the firing pin in a striker fired pistol to initiate the firing sequence, and it is overall 2.1 inches long, and at its thickest portion 0.186 inches thick. Now we'll go with the rear slide cover plate. This, all it does is hold the striker and everything inside of the pistol under spring tension. It has no part in the cycle of operations. It is 0.7415 inches thick or wide and 0.1905 inches thick. And are 2 of our pieces. This is the locking block. When your slide comes back, it drops down and locks onto this until released. At its widest point, it is 0.9 inches thick and 1.4 inches long. There is no portion of that plays a part in the cycle of operations. Now you have your trigger, which is in 2 pieces, and that is 1 inch tall and approximately 0.9 inches long. That initiates the firing process of the sequence for the sequence of operations. Let's see. We will go with the rear sight. That is 0.7 inches wide, 0.4 inches thick. That, what it plays in a cycle of operations is there's no part for that except for that it aligns your barrel with the target so you can hit the target accurately. We'll go with the magazine on this one. That one is at its widest, excluding the base plate, 0.9 inches thick. And .699 inches tall. That plays a part in the cycle of operations with the feeding process. It feeds the next round up and into the chamber when the slide reciprocates back and comes forward. That is our next part, the slide. That is, go ahead and measure length first, since our calipers open for that. We're not going to be able to get that in there for length. So let's do it by tape measure, which we happen to have right here. It is 6 3/4 of an inch long overall, and 1 inch wide at its widest portion. So those are our parts that we have chosen, and the critical dimensions for each one of them as it pertains to the pistol and their part in a cycle of operations. So now we've identified those 6 parts, we've identified the critical dimensions and what their part in the cycle of operations is. We're going to also identify and discuss the training a gunsmith should undergo to avoid causing serious damage to these components. You need to be formally trained. You need to go through some kind of a school so you know the amount of finesse that each one of these parts needs to be handled with, and how critical they are to the overall function of each one of the parts of the cycle of operations, so that the entirety of the machine itself works. Because each part, if you'll allow me to correct myself on that one, plays a part that interacts with another part in the machine, that these all have to work in concert with each other so that they function flawlessly. Because if one of them is out of whack, then the entire process is going to be held up by that one part, whatever it might be. So that means, in fact, your firearm at that point will no longer function correctly. What I have for that one. I appreciate you guys tuning in, and we will see you guys next time. Okay, we are back for part 2 of our assignment. We're going to go ahead and show the Palmetto Armory Dagger Compact that we were sent, which is a Glock 19 clone. And we'll show clear. There's no magazine in the magazine well. Here it is right here with no ammunition in it. And a physical check of the chamber, as you can see, nothing inside of. Okay, so it's showing that the firearm is completely clear and empty. We will go ahead and, with no ammunition present, minus these 5 inert dummy rounds, which are just a solid aluminum piece with a rubber insert in the bottom. We're going to insert these into the magazine to show and demonstrate the cycle of operations with the firearm in question. So we're going to put those in. And when you insert that in, this magazine sticks out a little longer because it's actually for a Glock 17 clone, not a 19, so it's just a little bit too long. But with the first step of the cycle of operations would be when you bring the slide to the rear and let it return home. That is the chambering, which is feeding. And then you have firing. And you have extracting and ejecting. Then it's going to return to the front again with the next round. That is the trigger reset. Then you would pull the trigger again, it would fire again, and extract that round. You're going to return it to the front again, let it go, and it just repeats the cycle over and over again until all the ammunition that has been loaded will have been emptied. That is when, in the last part of the cycle, it will lock open on an empty chamber, showing that the magazine has indeed been emptied and the firearm is cleared. That is your cycle of operations: your firing, your loading, your firing, your chambering, your feeding, your extracting, ejecting, and then the process starts over again. This is for being a clone of a Glock 19, this is a very nice clone. And with mine, they sent the R3D night sights by XS Sights. Those were the sights that I chose to install on the firearm, and they are absolutely probably the best I've seen so far, and I'm liking it. So that is all we have for today. So I will see you guys next time, and thanks for tuning in.